I'm with the three men who star in Three Men in a Land Rover, the compelling story that we are publishing as a book. And when Chris first came to see me, I was immediately bowled over. I have to say, totally bowled over by this extraordinary story. I ran out of words. Every aspect that he was telling me about, I just kept saying, extraordinary, amazing, intriguing, extraordinary. Gentlemen, give us a flavour, if you would, of your adventure through 40 countries, 40,000 miles in a Land Rover.
Well, it was an extraordinary adventure, and the amazing thing about it was it's all true, and really, looking back on it, it's difficult to believe that we survived some of the scrapes that we experienced. I think we were the first into Burma for 20 years, having floated across the River Naf on a lilo, and then very extraordinarily being asked to show our passports.
And then we had, in the Middle East, we had a sort of double arrest. We were arrested by the Iranian authorities for allegedly running over a shepherd boy and his goats. I think we were only arrested because our vehicle, the Land Rover, was pretty distinctive. However, the next day, the Land Rover took centre stage again, as we rather foolishly took a photograph of it in this sea of mud, which was the no man's land between Iran and Iraq. As a border patrol Land Rover came, we were arrested for taking a photograph in the frontier, taken to Basra Central Jail.
Yes, where the coup was going on. There was this.
We were accused of being Israeli spies. That was the worrying
and we were
thing.
shoved in jail, as Mike said. But we survived that somehow. Extraordinary.
Yeah, and it was classic stuff with a single light bulb in the cell, and
Last cigarette, and
yeah,
you know.
well, it wasn't quite last cigarette, but it was getting on.
But the strange thing with the anti-British posters along the wall in one of the places we were taken, was Harold Wilson in a vice, who was our PM at the time, with his eyes popping out with spurts of blood. But the worrying thing was there was blood along the wall, was real blood, and that was really quite worrying.
Really, as you were saying, there were people strung up
And when we left, yes, they were all strung up along the roads.
by piano wire.
It was the coup
Terrific.
that led to Saddam Hussein and the
Hussein.
Ba'ath Party.
Indeed. And a brush with a couple of Congolese.
Indeed, yes,
Yes.
we came to a jungle clearing. There's absolutely no roads through the Congo whatsoever, and we got out to investigate what was happening. We couldn't find the right way out, and I just felt the barrel of a gun in the back of my neck, and the two Congolese soldiers emerged from the undergrowth, and they wanted the Land Rover, and we pretended not to understand them, and after a bit of a standoff, they went up on the roof rack and travelled with us for 3 days through the jungle. And it was just gesticulating with a gun to tell us when to stop and all that sort of stuff. But it was a scary time.
Yes, extraordinary.
Yeah.
And crossing the desert must
The
have been-
desert, yes, it was very late into May. We should have been going across, and nobody else was. There were 1 or 2 vehicles and lorries, and we were just us. And then, we were coming across all this little sand, and the vision was very unclear. It was so bright.
How could you tell the difference between solid sand, if that's the right expression, and quicksand?
Something to do with the gravel and the pebbles was the sort of solid ground. But if you saw anything else, you had where you were going to sink into it.
So you couldn't go very fast. You had to keep your eyes literally on the road,
And because
as
of
it was the whole time.
because of the temperature, we used to drive from first light till about 10, 11, and then just go underneath till 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the heat had gone.
And the French had put all these balises between the walls, but a lot of them had been nicked, so that was supposed to mark the road, but it was sometimes quite a long gap between
I mean,
these.
with our Woolworths, in the little speedometer at the front saying which way to go.
Because presumably, you were saying earlier on, it's very difficult to tell whether you were moving or not.
Yeah,
All around
it was
you,
a
yes.
horrible feeling driving in soft sand where you could get up to sort of 4 or 5 miles an hour and you just couldn't tell if you were moving or not. And the temperature and the heat, and I remember that the ignition light was glowing all the time because the regulator wasn't working properly, and that just added to our stress levels going up the stretch. Yeah.
But apart from that, the Land Rover performed pretty well.
Remarkable.
Yeah,
Absolutely remarkable.
And you think, but what could have not?
Yes, but you relied utterly.
Well,
totally.
what a vehicle.
Yeah.
But
What
you could imagine the relief when we got to the tarmac, and probably the relief for the Land Rover too.
set off thinking it'd be lovely to be intrepid and not be driving on tarmac, but by God, did we want to be on tarmac by the time we'd done 40,000 miles.
And you, Europe, Asia, and Africa. At that time, was there any other vehicle, do you think, that could have done that other than a Land Rover?
Well, we had to. We were supposed to be setting off with a Swiss doctor across the Sahara. He had a Haflinger, but being air cooled, it died after just a few miles. We had to tow that back and start all over again.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
So, a brilliant success, not only for the three of you, which is an extraordinary story, but also for the Land Rover.
Indeed.
Yeah, fantastic machine.
Yeah.
What a vehicle. Good old 10.
Yes, 10 being the name by which the Land Rover was named, because of known, the nickname, because it was, the registration was 10 TEN 423, and we're hoping we can find that vehicle. It would be wonderful to be reunited again with these three chaps. So it's a compelling story. It's utterly amazing, and well, I'm running out of superlatives, but it's just incredible.